right, welcome to today's episode. My name is Tom Rolley for System.io. I want to share a great book that I'm reading. It's called The Hard Things About Hard Things. And it is a fairly, I suppose, chilling, I'll call it chilling story about the role of the Chief Executive Officer. It's a brilliant book. I'm loving it. There is some absolute gems of wisdom in there. If you're an aspiring business owner or you're looking to expand into big territory and going into an IPO, that kind of status, then you should definitely get this book. The stories in it, what was done, what was achieved, what was pulled off against pretty insurmountable odds just goes to show what great leadership can do. But I was reading it this morning and a piece came up about, well, if you've got a team of 5 or less, then you don't need systems. You don't need processes. You can have a meeting and you will have perfect communication. I was like, man, I don't know when you wrote this, but it's highly unlikely, in my personal opinion, that perfect communication is going on. With 5 people working in that business, maybe it can be managed as you can talk and get through problems, but to think that just a meeting and is going to communicate perfect instructions, I was like, well, I'm a little skeptical on that. I've seen what happens. I originally grew my first business, graduate medicine, to about a team of 5, and all hell broke loose. And that could well have been, and most likely was, my frank inability to run a business on any level, just stepping out into a leap of faith that quickly revealed itself to be far more difficult than I was up to at that point. It taught me a very wonderful lesson, though, that it's extremely easy to burn cash rapidly when you don't know what you're doing. That was my experience. It was quite painful. I was like, whoa, okay, let's get the heck out of here. Scale back down. I'm like, all right, I got to learn how to do this business thing a whole lot better. Now, fast forward a couple of years, some adventures and some lessons, listening to men, particularly men in Wake Up Warrior in the Shield group, of lessons learnt, that what happens even if a business is successful, that it runs into problems when there are no systems, when there are no processes. So that question might come, well, when should you begin? And I would argue you should begin now. You should begin now. You should begin documenting what your processes are, what your systems are. At minimum, at least have a central location for where you will keep these. Presumably, you are not looking at a 3-ring binder and printed out operations manuals. It's 2021. Hopefully, some kind of inspiration has struck you to say, you know what, we could put this online. And that's going to give you a lot of advantages. It's going to give you the capacity to edit them and improve them. But before you can do that, I highly recommend you choose what location you're going to have as your central store. For a while, I had both Drive and Dropbox, and both of those platforms have some advantages. And I was like, great, Google Drive's got all access to docs, sheets, and the PowerPoint. I don't use the PowerPoint one. I like Keynote on the Apple, but nonetheless, docs and sheets are exceptional in Drive. And I was like, you know what? But Dropbox has got a lot more space for the money, so I'm going to have 2 locations. And this plagued me as a horrific solution a horrific problem. The solution was to kill one. And I chose to kill Dropbox. Why? Well, basically, I just had far more of my documentations already in Drive, and the amount of work that it took to pivot across everything out of Dropbox was significantly less. I actually had a great tool called MultCloud. If you can look that up, I think it cost me about $120 for the year. I needed it for about 3 hours, but it moved everything out of Dropbox and dumped it into Drive. And I was like, oh man, that is sweet. Now there's a one location. And then I went a little further. I'm like, okay, here's the location for the systems, and here's the location for the processes, and here's the location for the templates. And suddenly this made a massive difference to me. Suddenly there was one location of everything in my business. And from there, it began to grow and began to make sense. I could find things. I could find the files. I could find the instructions. And as my team expanded, I just brought on another VA, and he's not working off what I tell him. I'm like, run 309, run 307. I want you to run 206. And I'm just passing him systems. The ones that are regularly scheduled, I just go into his calendar and then he executes them. And he's come back with me. It's been fascinating. He's like, dude, this system that you thought was okay, it's written for you and it doesn't work. So fix it. So my experience in terms of building systems, I think I'm like maybe 33, 34 systems in. It's quite a lot. You think it's not many? It's okay. How many systems have you got? Have a look. Working, fully deployable. But this experience meant that I could go in and rejig that entire system. I actually recorded it for him so that he could see my thinking about how to approach the editing process to improve it, to make it better, the risks of moving particular parts of the processes around. And then I was like, okay, now the next step, I've made all the edits. Here's one critical thing. If you take one thing from this video, then what I want you to do is to remember that you must run your system after you've edited it. There is no guarantee that what you have edited now works. And in my experience, I came up across a lot of small little details, a lot of small tweaks that could be made to significantly improve that system. It might have been a rating of 4 out of 10 before, and at the end of this, I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. Hour and a half's work, significantly better system. I can now pass that to my VA. He can execute and it works. All right, that's all I've got for you. If you need help with your systems, if you're like, you know what, I need some to know how these things work. Like, how do you do systems? How do you get them to work? How do you get the efficiency and the effectiveness of actually having your systems on point so that you can scale, you can grow, you can be free of your business and continue to either sell at a higher multiple or just continue to take the profits and you can move to your next entrepreneurial idea. If that's what you're interested in, head over to systemio.dev, go through the training there, and there's an opportunity for us to catch up, look at your exact situation and work out what working together looks like. All right, thanks so much for tuning in tonight. Hope you got a lot of value out of this, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode tomorrow. See you then.